Hey guys, thanks in advance for taking a look at this video. So I've got two different parts here that I've printed, both of them at a 0.2 millimeter layer height, well, both with the same settings entirely. And I guess my question is, should I be getting a better surface finish at a 0.2 millimeter layer height, or is this just what I should expect? So if I look closely here, you see larger sections, so if we look at the very top here, are pretty good. If I run my finger on that, it's not pillowed, there's no gaps. There are just very sort of small holes along the edge here. And at the sharp angles, you see there is some separation in the perimeters there. This is three shells. So there is, you can see all three lines there. But in general, it looks pretty good. And say the sides also look pretty good. It's fairly smooth. Doesn't seem over or under extruded. But where I run into issues is the surface finish on these varying sections here. And it's probably the worst here. And I know what's going on. That is the outline overlap. And just because of the direction of that infill, I'm ending up with a lot of pillowing there. It's very uneven. But even in other sections, you see I have a gap here as well. This pillowing here is where the printer stopped printing the infill, moved to a different section, and then came back and finished it from the other direction. So that kind of leads me to believe maybe it looks a little over extruded. So that would be an example of a spot where it seems maybe a little over extruded, since there just wasn't room to lay both of those layers in after it had cooled. But then in other spots, it certainly looks a bit under extruded. Again, like at these perimeters or on some of the outline overlaps. I see here again these thin sections, how much pillowing there is there because of that outline overlap. But, you know, on the larger sections, the surface finish is pretty okay. Again here a little bit, in sections it looks like it might be a little under extruded. Same thing top here, some of these perimeters just aren't meeting. So again, on the larger sections, overall not too bad, but on these smaller ones, just very, very poor surface finish. And this is Hatchbox Gray PLA, I should say, and it's probably the most telling filament that I've printed with. You know, a poor surface finish really shows quite a bit on it. So yeah, and here's another part. And this one does look a bit better, I think mainly because it's got so many areas that are just very flat. So it's able to do just long, consistent infill passes. But you see where it starts to get tight here. You see how much pillowing there was, and you can actually see the nozzle dragging back through that. But the outline overlap settings seem to be good for everywhere else. Like even if I follow this curve here, I don't feel any pillowing here at all. Like it meets very well. No pillowing here. A couple little gaps there. A little bit of pillowing along this face, but I have those same issues up here on tight corners and other areas of detail where it's just not consistently filling in those areas. So again, seems possibly a little bit over extruded just on the solid infill period. Yeah, there's an angle where you can see that. I mean, if it's over extruded, I wouldn't say it's over extruded by much, but there is some pillowing here where it joined the infill after it stopped and then came at it from a different direction. And you can see some gaps in there. And the surface finish on the top here, pretty good. Again, the larger flat areas, to me that extrusion looks pretty good. Maybe a little over extruded, maybe a little bit. But then again, there are gaps in the perimeter in places where to me it looks like it is a little bit under extruded. By the way, the layer width is 0.48. I had entertained maybe bringing it down to 0.45, which is I believe what the Prusa slicer settings are by default. This is done in Simplify 3D. So please don't just reply with use Slicer. I'd like to get settings that do work in Simplify 3D. I've been using it for years, and there's a couple other workflows in it that are advantageous for the work that I typically do. But yeah, I'm just kind of curious. Should I be expecting a better surface finish for 0.2 millimeter, or is this pretty common? Also do have here's a Benchy that I did just kind of tuning in the profile. Now this is not done at 0.2. This is done at 0.1, but the profile is pretty much the same otherwise, with just the layer height being different between the two. This is at 0.1. These again are at 0.2. You see surface finish is pretty darn good. Ridging looks good. And very minimal Z-seam. It's at the corner of the boat here. You can see a little bit sort of at the deck trim, but you can hardly even make it out on the boat. You can make out the detail on the back. And there's the same, I should mention, so there's the same extrusion width. This is also done at 0.48, and same extrusion multiplier from this profile to this one. So if the answer is just I've got to print at 0.1, if I want really nice surface finish, I can do that. It's just on large parts like this, it certainly does make a difference. I think this was 4.5 hours at 0.2 millimeter, so I'm looking at probably 10 hours at 0.1 millimeter. Thanks for watching, and let me know what you think.